we are introducing Jason Jackson with his story, The Truth in the Presence of God. Give it up for Jason.
Truth in the presence of God. Harlan brought his saw for the hymn at the end, and Kempster rented a car to Gracie's folks for a knockdown $20. It wasn't a hearse, but it was all Kempster had, and at least it was black, save for the rust. Gracie's casket rode in the back. As much as we tried, we couldn't get that trunk to shut on it right. The young'un's coffin is a small thing in the mind, but in the real world, it's sharp-cornered and wooden and heavy. And it ain't the size to fit in the back of a $20 rent without some rope getting involved for tying it down. Petey pulled it tight around the pipe at the back, and the roof, the pink of her breast, was visible to everybody on the right of her in the front 5 rows. Katie didn't come. His ma said he'd swallow some peppercorns, and she didn't come either on account of having to look after him. But everyone knew that Katie was a bully, and that Gracie's little pigtails had been the right length for pulling. Albie Estelov brought his camera and he set it up outside on a tripod, taking photographs of everyone as they came and as they went. It turned out old Albie's camera was as empty of film as his head is empty of brains. But he still swears he took some of the best pictures of his life that day, and that somewhere there's a celestial record of them which little Gracie gets to see whenever she likes. Gracie's classmates brought dolls and placed them on the casket. But little Sandy cried so much for her dolly and the flames it would have to endure that her mother left her place in the pews, crept forward and picked it right back out of the middle of the bunch. Stopped Sandy's crying, but there was head shaking all the same. No one brought flowers. Gracie's ma had said not to. Instead, she'd asked for feathers, because her Gracie had always said that if people put flowers in vases, why not feathers? They were just as beautiful, just as dead. And they wouldn't rot like flowers do, and they would last, Gracie had been certain, until almost forever. Most people thought a funeral without flowers would be a strange kind of thing altogether, and they were right. But then Gracie's pa said there was nothing wrong with strangeness every once in a while, was there? And it's a hard thing to argue with a quiet man who's grieving. Preacher Johnson said some words once the doors were shut and everyone was sitting, but in truth, he'd never been much of a preacher, and no one really listened. What they waited for was Harlan, Gracie's brother, but more than that, her friend, who was sitting at the front on a chair, with his head down and his saw resting against his knee. 18 years old, he'd been 12 when Gracie was born, and he'd learnt the song, her song, Amazing Grace, for her christening. And he played it right there in the church. Everyone had marvelled at how he made that saw sound like a violin just by pulling a stick tied tight with catgut across the steel of it. The song that day had been joyful, and the whole of the congregation had sung the words despite a wrong note or two. But this time, there was to be no singing. In the midst of the silence, Harlan bent his saw into place, and he drew out those first few notes, and just like the whispered truth in the presence of God, how sweet, and how sad is that sound. Thank you.